If you're just tuning back into the channel, we're the Boeckle Brothers. I'm Landon.
And I'm Jesse.
And we have flipped over 325 properties right here in Las Vegas. And today we are going to dive into the mind of a four-time Mr. Olympia champion. Jay Cutler, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, it's great to be on, man. I'm excited to be here.
Appreciate it. We really do.
Yeah, we know the the mindset that you must have. It's something that we're kind of diving into a lot right now with the Boeckle Brothers Academy and how to succeed in business and how to keep going and pushing through. So we really want to deep dive into your brain today and figure out how the hell you did it, because you're obviously one of the most athletic people on the planet at that time, and what it takes to be that person is insane. So we look forward to talking about that.
Can't even imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's a journey. I mean, It's something that it's kind of funny because when you start off, everyone wants to be like a ball player or, want to be a lawyer or a doctor, right? Mm-hmm. It's funny. I wanted to be a bodybuilder.
Really?
And I wasn't even sure what it was. I mean,
From the start.
Yeah, I have pictures when I was 4, when I was 7, when I was 10, and here I was flexing all the time. So I remember, I think around 12 years old, I picked up my first book. Back then it was just fitness magazines, right? And I don't know, my sister's boyfriend, my sister's older than me, he had a magazine laying around, and I saw a picture of this guy, Chris Dickerson, who was a former Mr. Olympia. And I remember telling my oldest brother, wow, I want to look like this. Mm-hmm. I was 12. He said, why would you want to do that? And next thing you knew, like I was kind of going through GNC, because at the time GNC was the only place that had these books. So all through high school, I was an athlete, and I was in the weight room just bench pressing and squatting like every kid for football. And then, I started reading these books in GNC, and I bought this book called Beyond Built. And when I was 16, it was a book by Bob Paris, who was like one of the most aesthetic, good-looking bodybuilder back in the 80s. And I was like, that's what I wanted to do. So 18, I joined the gym and started my journey to be a bodybuilder, and ended up going all the way and, coming full circle to Mr. Olympia, which is the ultimate title.
Right.
Schwarzenegger's won 7.
Top of the heap.
Yeah, you can't go any further.
Yeah.
So to be a multiple winner, the journey was a very lengthy one. Mm-hmm. I won my first at 33. I started training at 18. Retired at 40. But today I'm still very active, as I ever was.
Still
almost
training
more.
hard, still doing a ton of business.
I mean, it's turned into, a legacy now. And obviously it's a lot of balance. And I can talk a little bit about, how I got there, because I call myself like a tunnel vision type person. Like sometimes you got to cut out outside sources in order to have the, we all have to sacrifice to get to places.
Absolutely.
Right? And sometimes that's strenuous on family, friends, relationships.
Sometimes it is the closest people to you that are the naysayers that you gotta tune out.
Yeah, and people would, a lot of people like, what's wrong with Jay? Like, why is he not communicating? And but when you're in that zone, and when you're focused, and when you're punching long hours, no matter what it is, and I'm talking outside of being a bodybuilder, sacrifice, mindset, your whole goals need to be sometimes written down on paper, but sometimes they're in the back of your head, right? For me, it's never finished. To this day,
you'll never be done.
Never.
Yeah, and sometimes, some people look at it as a negative mentality, the never satisfied mentality, but I think that's the successful people are never satisfied, and, some people who don't have the ambitions and the dreams of, giants, they think that never satisfied mentality is a negative one, when I really don't think it is. I think that we're always pushing, we're always striving and looking to get, further and challenge ourselves more each and every day. So, I have friends especially who are like, man, today, hey, it's St. Patrick's Day. You coming out with us? No, man. I'm working,
I didn't even
bro.
know it was. I'm not even thinking about that.
I got green on today. I'm working, man. We're hustling right now.
Every day's the same.
Yeah.
Every day's the same.
Yeah.
I mean, as a bodybuilder, I can tell you, there was no weekend. It was like, okay, this is my training day, and this is a day I'm not training, and there was no off time. Like, I know some people, their work weeks a Monday through Friday. Sometimes it's a little different in Vegas, right? Sometimes the work days, the weekends
Over
here.
the weekend, yeah.
For me, it was a set schedule. My sister asked me like a year ago, she said, you need to really enjoy what you've done. And I said, I'm not finished yet. That's, so you talked about the negative, like if people don't understand like your mindset, that's the hardest thing for you to you can't teach that, I don't think.
No, it definitely can. They don't quite understand that while you're going through it, while you're in that tunnel, you're also enjoying it. We enjoy that state of being in state of
love
striving.
working. Does that make sense? And when I was coming up, I mentioned I was 12 when I picked up a book, but my brother started a concrete business when I was 11. So we did concrete foundations. I grew up in Massachusetts. I have 3 older brothers, and they started this business, and I basically was put to work after school vacations, weekends, before school. And I hated my family for that. Like I remember thinking, why are all these kids on summer break and I'm working literally 14, 15-hour days? Because as a family business, you don't punch clocks, right?
You just get it done.
It's just whatever it is, it is. So we'd work sun up to sundown. We'd work under the headlights of vehicles sometimes, pouring concrete. I mean, the housing development was booming through the 80s, 90s. And I was working 75 plus hours a week, especially during the summer.
Wow.
And I didn't realize that set me up for later in life. Like bodybuilding is like 24/7. There's no days off. It's consistency. Anyone that lifts weights or works out knows that it takes time to build your physique to a certain level. And if you take like a week or 2 off, or you get off the diet, like you just watch yourself change in the mirror, right?
Kills me.
Fast.
So a lot of that is it's a mental, it's very mental, like damage. It can damage your mentality with how you look. Because as a bodybuilder, like I'm an artist, right? So I look at my physique, and there's a lot of combination of sleep patterns, eating, training, that all combine to having the greatest success. And remember, I'm trying to be the best in the world at it. Like from day one, I wanted to be the best at what I did. Who doesn't, right? I mean,
if you're chasing a passion, you should chase to be the best at it.
I mean, you started this. You said we flipped over 300. What was the number? 300.
Yeah, like 325 homes now.
Okay, so like you're not done, right? You want to be. You want to have that number. Like we did a million homes, right?
Homes, yeah.
I want to be the greatest ever in history of the bodybuilder. Schwarzenegger is known as like the GOAT, right? Because he's won 7 and he went on to movies and being a politician, whatever else. But when you talk business, like I've done it all, and I'm still working at it. I'm 48 years old, but the job never stops.
Never does.
What's the goal from here? What would in your mind make you the best ever? Because I mean, 4-time Mr. Olympia. How many Schwarzeneggers did you win?
3 Arnold Classics.
3 Arnold Classics, and I mean, what?
Yeah, listen, I'm not the most winningest, but when it comes to building brands and being recognized, like I was a crossover to social media, right? So I went from a magazine famous person to being very recognized on social media. So I have I'm that guy that's still doing TikToks and Snapchat and Instagram stories every day, and
because you understand that's the lane you need to go into.
You become your own marketer, right?
Yeah.
Where the magazines would market me, and the father of bodybuilding, Joe Weider, who brought Schwarzenegger over, moved me to California when I was 25 years old. And the funny thing is like I wanted to be the greatest bodybuilder, and I thought this is the answer. And I sat in his office the first time when I was probably 22. We started conversing. And he says, you need to find something else to do. You can't just live off bodybuilding. And what people don't realize is Schwarzenegger's, a lot of his wealth comes from real estate.
Yeah.
So Joe Weider was like, listen, invest in property and, build your security that way. So it's like, as soon as I moved to California, I bought my first home within 6 months. And then when I was out there for a year, just over a year, I explored Las Vegas, and I mentioned 9/11 happened, and next thing you know, I was coming out here and looking at homes, where I was looking at $1 million for property in California. I told you I brought my first home here for like
$325.
$325. Yeah. And I said, okay, this is a no-brainer. I went to my accountant, who's still he's from Newport. I said, hey, what do you think about Vegas? Mm-hmm. He said, go.
Do it.
No state income tax. Starting to make some money. And I came out here, and within the first year, I bought 7 homes.
It's incredibly smart to realize that that's something that you need to do, because it is unfortunate of how many professional athletes in all different athletics and sports that you see rise to such, high heights and achieve such things, but then where are they later in life if they don't pivot, if they don't get into another lane and be smart about their finances and explore other avenues and invest in things? You can see somebody that was just so idealized at the end of their life or later in life just really diminished. Yeah. And it's such a shame, but that's incredible. That's such a smart piece.
You know what the thing is it doesn't matter, like, the decisions I made, and obviously I've had great success, in a lot of financial decisions, but at the same time, no matter what, I love to work. Mm-hmm. And like, I still get up every day, and I'm still that kid, like, struggling in college. Like, okay, can I afford my chicken? And I mean, there was a time, guys, gas was 99 cents a gallon. Okay. I would scrounge up like $2 and change, and I would drive to the gym. I had a Ford Escort at the time. It's like the second car I owned. And I remember running out of gas so many times, because the gym was probably 12 miles from my house. And we had no cell phones. So I had to run to a payphone and call my friend, hey, bring me a gas can. But I can't tell you how many times I did that. And you'd say, why did you do that? I just wanted to go to the gym. Right. But I literally had no money. So you put $1.50 of gas in, it gave me enough to basically get there and back. But, I kind of I miscalculated a couple times.
Yeah. Sure.
But
you didn't get out and just push the car to the
I mean, the funny thing is like, it's, if that happened today, I mean, think about me pulled on the 215 and I'm out of gas. How many people would recognize me standing there, right. Like, whatever. But those are the moments that I remember the most. And that's the mindset I still have. Like, I'm still that struggling kid to get to the top. Like, I'm never satisfied with what I do. Yeah. So I wake up every morning with the mission to be better. Like, you asked me, where do I want to go from here? Like, I'm not winning on stage anymore. Mm-hmm. I'm thriving in business, but I really realize that now with social media, the response I get from my fan base and people that follow me, they need motivation. Mm-hmm. Yep. So what I try to put out there is motivation for them. And okay, how can I change? So how can I save people?
You can change people's lives.
Yeah.
And through social media, you have the power to do that on such a multitude.
Yeah. And my fan base is now, it's kind of converted from guys that wanted to be bigger, and I still get those, but to people that want to lose weight. Mm-hmm. And I think that the biggest issue we have is people's eating habits, diabetes.
What's your eating habit look like? I'm dying to know. What was it when you were 18, and what is it today?
I worked with a nutritionist from the time I was 18 and a half. I was very fortunate. I had a 6-meal-a-day plan on my refrigerator. It's probably like 3,500 calories. So people talk macros now, but I went up to 6,000. I mean, remember, my weight I started training at 200. My max weight's been 300. I weigh about 230 now. I eat about 4 meals a day now. I'm slowly like backing down on the food because I don't want to eat as much. It's just, it's not healthy to continue to eat 6 meals a day of that much protein, whatever else. But I mean, I was buying a whole cow at a time when I lived in Massachusetts. I would buy, 140 pounds of chicken. I'd buy 30 dozen eggs at a time.
40 pounds of chicken and
30 dozen eggs.
I would eat 5 pounds.
Literally a cow?
I would have a butcher that would butcher the cow.
Yeah.
And I would cut this to steaks, this to hamburg. And I bought it, and I had 2 freezers in my garage. And I would pack these like 1-pound bricks. And I would take out like as much as I needed. So it was X amount of red meat and X amount of chicken each day. So I would eat around 4 to 5 pounds of meat a day.
Holy smokes.
And I mean, I was eating up to 1,000 grams of carbs a day. But remember, my transition from 200 to 300 and a lot of weights in between. And I was training, 2, 3, 4 times a day a lot of times where, I got up this morning, I did, 30 minutes of fasted cardio, so I do it on empty stomach, and I'll weight train once. I do that 5 days a week now. I'm very consistent, and I just stay on a low-fat diet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. See, I lift weights 5 to 6 days a week. Love it. Have been doing it since I was 18 as well. I'm not as big as you are, but I like to think I'm pretty strong in the gym, but my biggest problem is cardio. I have a big issue with cardio. I can't
hate it, or
I don't do it a lot.
Yeah, I have all this at home. So I was sponsored. I had, treadmills, bikes, elliptical, stairs. I have tanning booth in my house, which I haven't used in 10 years.
Cardio every day, though? No,
every day. I get up, and to be honest, it's meditation for me.
Yeah.
So you talk about mindset. I think meditation is becoming more apparent these days.
More prevalent.
People just, they need to be in a certain mindset and prepare themselves for the tasks at hand. My cardio for that 30 minutes is mindset for the day. So I'm not watching YouTube. I'm not listening to music. And I'm not looking at text messages, but I'm actually mentally putting my day together. And that includes the weight training, all my business, how I'm going to manage the day. And then I eat my breakfast after doing this fasted cardio. And my mind is just so clear. Mm-hmm. And then what happens is I get through a crazy day. I work for whatever I do with all my business, phone calls, what we're doing here today. Sure. This is on the agenda. And I'll go weight train once this is finished. And that's going to be my second meditation. And what I'll do is I don't listen to music. I train at a gym with very low music. I train at Kilo Club. I don't know if you guys know where that is, in Tivoli.
Okay.
Upstairs. It's the old David Barton gym. There's no one there. And that's my second meditation. And then I'll do another 20 minutes of cardio on stairs after, but that's my hour of don't bother me, right? Mm-hmm. No phones. I do social media, and I do cameo shout outs and that kind of stuff. I have different things that I do, motivational things for people. Of course, I do social media. But when I was training full capacity, back in the day, I trained at all the local Gold's gyms here, which are now EOS Fitness. No phones were allowed. So if someone came in the gym and trained with me, which was a rare occasion, but I used to have people that flew in and out to train with me when I was Mr. Olympia. Mm-hmm. My number one rule is no cell phones.
No distractions.
No beeping, no ringing. And we didn't have video much on phones then, and we didn't have really texting. I remember we were flip phones and that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's going back. Some of our viewers probably are
no iPhones?
Yeah. So it's that was part of the whole regimen. I need to be focused and no distractions. And I was kind of hardcore like that.
It's so easy to be distracted today. It's the easiest thing to do is to pick up a phone, is to turn on a TV. And I think what you hit a really good point is that so many people are now being more acceptive of meditation, of being present with yourself, and the benefits that you get from just doing something as simple as that, especially in the early morning hours of your day. And I can see that message that you're giving out it isn't so much about getting big anymore. It isn't so much, it's about being healthy with yourself, being healthy in your life, and giving inspiration to people to achieve whatever it is they're trying to achieve.
Yeah,
helping people is your next step, it sounds like.
It is, but how many people wake up every morning and look at themselves in the mirror and say, I am 100% satisfied with what I see? Not many.
Not very many at all.
I'm maybe no one on the planet. I don't know.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm always hey, I want to look better. I want to feel better. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you for 20 years, being someone that was chasing a bodybuilding dream, physique, I rarely looked at my face when I looked in the mirror. And the mirror was our best friend, and as an artist, you just, we train and we look at, how the muscles get
constantly
examining, and is the arms in balance with the calves, and, symmetry is important, muscularity is important, and then, of course, definition,
sure.
Right? So you have to be defined enough to show off all these, cuts and what they kind of judge us on, right? So competition, remember, I'm not a weightlifter, I'm more of a physique artist, right? So, there's a lot of variables that go into and a lot of thought process. It's not just going to the gym and working out, like you're a workout guy, right? But I talked about like mindset of I would go through these workouts. So if I left the gym yesterday, I did back yesterday, I trained. Like today is legs. So I'm already like the next day going through the exactly. So when I go in the gym, it's almost like it's
you
like,
envision it.
I already have, yeah.
You know how much weight you want to lift today.
Exactly.
It's clear.
It's totally like it's just routine, right? Same thing. I wake up every morning. I have my egg whites this morning. I've done that for 25 plus years. Have my 2 whole eggs. I have 2 cups of egg whites, which is equivalent to probably 15 egg whites. It's 3 grams of protein in an egg white without the yolk. Then I have two whole eggs. I have 2 slices of Ezekiel bread, which is a flourless bread.
Love that stuff.
I had half a cup of coffee. I use a cinnamon raisin, which is better. I had a cup of oatmeal. I had a banana. I had a cup of cottage cheese.
After cardio.
Yeah.
Okay.
And before I came here. And then I try to drink, I try to drink at least 1.5 gallons of water a day. Yeah. So I carry water with me. But you can see, like, you're probably sitting back saying, shit, that's a pretty big breakfast, right?
Sure. To me, someone else, it sounds like very big.
Yeah,
but
drinking egg whites sounds pretty difficult.
But I used to have 30. I used to have 30 egg whites for breakfast.
30 egg whites.
Yeah, that was my breakfast.
Drink it.
No, I would cook it actually. So the plate was loaded, and then I'd have like 3 packets of oatmeal and fruit, and my breakfast was a lot bigger. That was probably the most important meal of the day. But it also, like I said, it kind of jump starts your day too. So not only did I go through the meditation process of the cardio, which you hate, I did the breakfast to kind of kickstart the metabolism for the day. And, I have a meal in the car that I'll take, to my office. And I still eat out. Like, I'm a little more looser now. But like I mentioned, I only eat about 4 meals a day, which I've eaten up to 10 meals a day.
Wow. I was going to ask, have you always cooked for yourself? Have you continued to do that?
I've always had some help, but I've mostly done my own. I work with Trifecta now, which is an organic meal delivery.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a little easier. The meals are prepared. But what I do is I order a la carte. So I order basically like a pound of red meat or a pound of chicken, a pound of fish. And what I do is I pan it up. Like I use a skillet and I kind of maybe season it a little more. Sure. And then I'll cook my rice or my vegetables or whatever on the side. I mostly eat white rice is what I try to do.
So this insane career you've had, is who helped you through your career? Who are the mentors in your career?
It's endless.
Or was it you?
I had a business mentor in the beginning. And I mentioned this guy, Joe Weider, that was the godfather, right? He brought over Schwarzenegger and whatever from Austria. I had a business mentor that when that guy offered me my first contract, when I was 22 years old, at the time I was a struggling college kid. I graduated criminal justice degree. My dream was to be like FBI or whatever. And that slowly transitioned into, it was my backup plan for being a bodybuilder. My brothers were in the concrete. They wanted me to take that business. And I said, no way. It was just too strenuous, working through the snow in the summertime, the heat. So I was the first one to really go to college and get a degree in my family, youngest of 7 kids. And at the time I was like, okay, am I tossed between getting a cop job or working in a prison or whatever, and then Joe Weider offers me a contract for $24,000. This is 1995.
18 years old.
Okay. So you guys aren't even born yet, What year were you guys born?
We're 5. I'm 90.
Okay. So I graduated in 91 from high school.
Yeah.
So I got an offer for, basically $2,000 a month, which, is nothing, right? So I refused that deal. I said, I'm going to come back and win a pro card the next year. And I got my pro card and I got double the money. I signed a deal for $50,000 was my first contract. And at the time, police officers were making like 30s. Mm-hmm. So I was on top of the world, $4,000 a month.
Yeah.
And
18, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, it was a lot, So, I had a business mentor, though, that was into real estate, and he was doing a lot of land development at the time, construction. He had a couple excavators and whatever. So I was learning that. He also had a heating, air conditioning business. So I was learning that side, the technical side. His brother ran that company. So, and I was doing paperwork or whatever else. So I kind of had my hands in a lot. I worked at a restaurant. I was a line cook. My sister owned a restaurant. So I was kind of getting my feelers out. but bodybuilding was my passion. So he kind of mentored me on what deals to kind of take business-wise. And then, of course, that Joe Weider was the one that kind of like, hey, invest your money. You know, don't just spend it. Don't buy fancy cars, which I did anyway. I did buy nice cars because, you know, I slowly started to build up an online presence selling 8x10s and T-shirts. I sold like one T-shirt and a signed picture. People would write into my P.O. box in the magazine, and I would sell this stuff. You know, so I was making residual money if it was, you know, extra $1,000 a month. So I was kind of starting to really, and then of course the .coms came 2000. I started jaycutler.com, which is currently my website for my supplements. And I was able to capitalize on all that. And slowly, you know, the brand started being built. But Chris Aceto, who did my nutrition, I mentioned I was lucky to meet him when I was 18. He also mentored me. He is a massive real estate investor. Okay, he owns.
Who was it?
His name is Chris Aceto. He's a nutritionist, very famous in the bodybuilding arena.
Okay.
And he actually owns, he probably, I don't know, he has 200 plus doors that he has currently. He lives in Maine. And he's like someone that really, really was like, save your money, invest, don't spend it, you know, plan for the future. But the thing is, we didn't realize I would be as successful still in the bodybuilding world. Like I was told, once you retire, you're done. And like any athlete, right? Unless you're a Jordan or LeBron or Tom Brady or whoever, right? Yeah. There's certain athletes that can forever
continue. Yeah.
You don't plan on being that.
No.
And I've been fortunate enough that I'm in demand as ever as I was in the beginning, even more. And I've been able to go outside and brand with clothing brands, supplements, belt lines, shoes, everything you can name.
You think it's driven mostly from the social media channels now? And really attacking that.
I mean, it was a success of being on stage, great, which you don't plan on ever being, you know, you want to be the best in the world, right? But to go down in history and be one of the greatest ever, like that's pretty amazing. Like I never thought I'd win 4 titles and end up in Las Vegas. Like my dream was to move west. I mean, us East Coast guys, we want to be here. I don't know where you guys grew up. Did you grow up here?
We're born and raised here, but our dads are from New York.
So we don't want to be in those winters, and it wasn't suitable to be a bodybuilder. So I came out here with a work ethic, and I'll say it, I just feel like the East Coast mentality is different from the West Coast. So when I got to California and I was training amongst the greats, I felt like I could outwork everybody. Yeah. And I hustled, and I just, you know, I stayed active. I traveled. I created a lot of relationships. And that's one thing I can say, what most of my success came from was the relationships that I had. Like I traveled all over the world, all different cultures, but I was, you know, I wasn't someone that demanded right away top dollar. I made the relationships and built brands with people. And to this day, like I'm still active with a lot of these people that have been there for 20 plus years.
I think that's super important to mention because, you know, even us with what we're doing today to relate to what we're doing here with real estate is, I mean, because of the networks that we've joined over the last only 2 years now, we've been able to scale our business drastically, almost 4 or 5x our business, mostly because of the relationships that we're building and the network that we're creating versus, you know, what we're doing on a daily basis here. I mean, we've been able to do so many things in the last 2 years, social media wise, you know, coaching academy, even deal making because of the network, because of the people we talk to and build relationships with. So it's cool to hear that it related.
It's everything. I mean, I have the Cutler Club, which is, you know, closed group. And I talk, you know, they're given a lot of different aspects, training plans, you know, nutrition advice. I do live feeds every 2 weeks on an app. And so they could ask questions, you know, it's a kind of a closed group. And I mean, I'm very, very active on social, but the face-to-face relationships and just because of the pandemic, right. And we were kind of held on hold, for like 2 years, right, with live expos and meet and greets and those kind of things, even military. Like I tour with the USO. I do a ton for the military. That was one of the things, if you asked, like my goal is to expand that. I didn't realize how much the face-to-face value was. I just attended Schwarzenegger's show a couple weeks ago, and the people were out like again now without the whole mask issue
Excited
and everything else.
to
Yeah.
be,
And the feedback I got from that, I realized how important that is. Even at my age, like I had said, oh, it's going to slow down at some point. You know, I'm not going to be as a parent, but I need to be there to give these people that motivation.
Right.
The social media can't replace that.
It can't. It's
The
hard
YouTube
to realize.
videos I put out weekly can't replace that.
Right.
Once you took it away with COVID, it is hard to realize that how important it was until it was gone.
Yeah. So, I mean, business thrived. I mean, of course, online and everything else. You know, I own a supplement brand that's mostly direct to consumer and Amazon based. So when people weren't leaving at home, they were still working out, finding ways to do things, you know, online. So I've been very fortunate in that sense. But it's just like listening to my feedback of all the people that, you know, use supplements or trying to be better. You know, I use that as kind of like, okay, what decision? It makes a big decision. Decision making for me is like based on what my fans call for, right?
Sure.
Or what, you know, society. It's not just like jump on this or jump on that because it's a trend. I'm careful about the trends, but at the same time, like, you know, you got to listen to your audience too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's important to hear the audience. I mean, we're in the same boat as to wanting to help people. You know, that's what we're doing. We love what we do on a daily basis. It's not work to us. It's a passion. You know, we have the fire inside of us to do real estate and do what we're doing. We love being here. We're, you know, here 5-6 days a week, you know, 10 hours a day plus, easy, you know, working our asses off in real estate. So with the content that we're putting out, it really is just to help people. We just want people who are starting from scratch. You know, we were talking to someone yesterday, he's a little bit strapped for cash, starting from scratch, doesn't know where to go. That's the type of person I want to help more than anything. You know, we want to try to get those people making money and living the way we live, you know, financially free, making good decisions, investing in their lives and the longevity of their lives. So listening to the people and understanding what they want and just being willing to help is huge for us as well.
And it feels good. We had
It does.
a call with him yesterday, and he texted us after. I feel so much better after talking to you. I have a little direction now. This was super helpful. Really appreciate you guys. That's what we do it for.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because when I got off the stage, I was kind of like, okay, what's next? You know, to be honest, I won the first Olympia title, and I was like, okay, I reached the pinnacle, right? What do I do? Do I go back and win another one?
Again.
But nothing's more satisfying than the first. I can honestly say that. And then I lost in the middle of my reign. Like I won 2, and I got second, you know, on my 3rd attempt. And that kind of lit a fire, and then I won 2 more after that. So I won 4, but it wasn't 4 in a row like a lot of the guys sometimes win. They have a reign, and then they fall off, right? I was the only guy in history ever to lose and come back. And it's hard because the world is against you. Everyone that was your best friend really kind of disappears. When you're on top, like you reach that status, and people have expectations, and then you have the people that cheer for you, but then when you lose, you know, you get a lot of fall off, right?
Sure.
So we talk about consistency a lot, and I think that's very important in fitness because I mentioned like the patterns of like sleep and eating and training, but it's also the ability to go to the gym each day and push yourself and have the confidence that everything is done correctly, right? It's a systematic approach, and I'm sure it's like your business. Like, you know, you're very successful in real estate, but it's a lot of research and a lot of knowledge of like, you know, how the MLS works, right? Certain regions, what's the price point, what's the potential? I mean, when I moved here in 2002, the 215 was not done. Tropicana ended. It was just empty. I mean, I remember when I was competing in the 2001 Mr. Olympia, and I remember driving and looking at properties, and Vegas was a steal.
Yeah, where you live wasn't even
It was dirt.
It was mountain still.
dirt.
Yeah.
Before they
I mean, listen,
imploded
215 wasn't there. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I was driving through the Spaghetti Bowl, and we know how much of a nightmare that is, right?
Yeah.
15 is like the worst freeway in America, right?
Never
I just
ending
came down.
construction
Yeah,
zone.
I just came down, and I just can't figure out why the traffic's like stop and go, you know? And I watched the transition of Vegas, and it's become a super hotbed, but I don't think Vegas is the cheap place anymore to move to necessarily.
No, I don't either.
I don't think it's cheap, but it is more affordable than California.
Of course,
it is
our
more
neighbors.
affordable
Yeah.
than other, New York. So
Sure.
I mean, it's a great place to
Who
live.
wants
Though. I
to
think
live
there's
in those states?
no,
anyway?
no one. But I think Vegas it's an opportunity zone for a lot of people, and I think that it's even becoming more so of an opportunity zone. I think we've done a great job building outside of tourism, more industrial complexes here, a lot more large office tenants moving in. We got the Google facilities. We got convention center expanding. There's so much more opportunity.
You mentioned something that, like, I know when I was buying and flipping homes in 2003, 4, everyone was making cash in Vegas, so a lot of people couldn't get financed. Like, the only jobs were like based on the strip jobs.
Right.
Now, like you just said, like, there's a lot of opportunity business here coming here that people have like secure jobs. It's not just in and out people like there used to be.
Employees.
Yeah, like people migrated to Vegas and they were gone within a year or two back in those early days, where people are like, okay, we're establishing a life here. We're having children and they're going to school and, there's professional jobs. So I think that's really what I've seen, the transition. And I'm watching like the fitness culture has exploded here, exploded. Gyms all over the place. People look for their comfort zone, and they don't really want to sometimes get out of those. But I think to be successful, you sometimes got to step out of that comfort zone.
That's a great point, because we struggle with that all the time, and we feel it. It's something that we've now come to embrace when it does happen. It was something we rejected at first to wonder whether we're on the right path, but now that we've gone through it and moved the goalpost and gone through that and moved it again and felt uncomfortable but then gotten comfortable with that, it's something that we now kind of look for.
It's the only way to grow. I mean, to be honest, this week's probably one of the more uncomfortable weeks we've had.
I was just thinking about it.
And the last year or two since pretty much pre-pandemic times, because we've gone from entry level, base level, median price point homes to now almost exclusively luxury homes. $1 million plus flips is what we're focused on right now. So we have more money out than ever, which is very uncomfortable to have that much leverage out. Contractors were having problems with construction because you have to do a much more high quality home. They're taking a lot longer, a lot more issues arise on them. And, we're constantly concerned of making the right decisions for them. And it's a very uncomfortable situation, but I think we put ourselves in the place of being able to get through this level of uncomfort because of the dedication we put in and the knowledge that we've built over the years to push through it and succeed and solve the challenges that arise. So very uncomfortable for us right now.
Yeah, but it's good.
But when you get a lot of first-time home buyers, right, it's a comfortable feeling to know, like, hey, I'm giving these people the opportunity that they might not have had.
Sure. That's a great feeling. Of
I mean,
course.
For me, it's when I see someone succeed and I'm, I walk up to people in the gym and I'm like, you look good. And I think people are shocked sometimes because
That's
someone
awesome.
of my, I don't train like I'd mentioned, I train at all gyms in Vegas, but I mostly go to Kilo Club, but Fit Club around the corner. Like I go there and I saw some people there yesterday. And I host a bodybuilding show here in Las Vegas. I do 4 around the country, but I have one April 9th here. And I saw a few of my people that are competing in that show, and I'm like, man, you look good.
Yeah. Fit Club's doing a hell of a job too with marketing and everything. They're doing a great job.
But I think people are surprised that I take the time to say, hey, you're looking good or whatever else.
I guarantee they are.
Yeah.
I guarantee that means more.
But that could change a lot for people. That could give them the motivation for the next week or two where it's hard to push through, right?
Totally.
I mean, Jay, that could change someone's life. You never know. I mean, someone like you with your stature coming up to them in the gym where they're working their ass off, sweating hard, telling them they look good could change someone's life.
Yeah.
It could push them to be the next Mr. Olympia.
Yeah, just never know where it's going to take you. I mean, if I asked you guys, what's your end goal? I don't know. You asked me like, what's the ultimate? And I don't really know. I think I have that answer.
I don't know, because every time I think I set a goal and we blow past it, then we set a new one. It's hard to imagine there's an end to this process.
Yeah, so
I don't know if I want there to be an end to the process. I mean, it's like what would the end be? I mean, once you're done, you're done. I mean, I I don't want that.
But I mean, you started doing like basically flips, and now you mentioned your academy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is probably a big step.
Huge.
Right? Because people are relying on that, and obviously you have to share all your knowledge that you were able to develop in the short time you guys have been really doing this business, right? For me, like I can tell you that physique changes, I use 2 weeks of comparison. So what I'll tell someone is like take pictures each week, reevaluate every 2 weeks. So if you're trying to transition on a workout program or a nutrition program, take pictures in the same light, same pose, everything, every single week, because looking in the mirror, you're not going to see the changes. But if you take pictures in this, same, you can look every week and make adjustments in what you do. So when talk about goal setting, we all have realistic goals. We all have, and like I told you in the beginning, I wanted to be the greatest bodybuilder in the world, but I was 18 years old. It wasn't going to happen. I didn't do that till I was 33. So it was like, okay, I transitioned to being, winning the local show. Then I, chased my pro card, got that. I became the best teenager in the country at 19. I forgot to mention that. And then, of course, you win your first pro show levels, and then you get to the Olympia. I was second to last in my first Mr. Olympia, which was at Mandalay Bay.
So you lost a couple first.
Oh, I mean, it was second to last. I was 15 out of 16. Then I moved up to 8th in 2000. Then in 2001, I went from 8th to 2nd. Wow. And then I was second, and I won.
Got it.
And of course, I won, and then 2, and then I lost 1 and came back.
So this wasn't really clear cut from day one that you were meant to be the best bodybuilder.
No,
this was total buildup.
I sat in my room, and after 99 Olympia, that year I was 15th, and my first one with huge expectations. I was coming there as like a well-known person, and I said, man, am I good enough? And I sat with Chris Aceto, who was the coach, my wife at the time, my very small group, and I said, am I just not good? Like I was actually doubting myself, where I came there with like, I'm going to win this show. I'm going to get comparisons with Ronnie Coleman and Kevin Leverone and Sean Ray, who were like the top dogs at the time. And I got knocked on my ass. And I said, is this, and it took me a couple weeks. And then I was right back in the gym, and I won my first pro show like 6 months later. Bought my first home with that prize money in California. And just started to roll after that.
That's a hard thing to get over, and I think everyone experiences that type of self-doubt, that kind of kick me back on my ass event in life, and it may happen multiple times, but it's about how you deal with that. It's about how you're obviously surrounded by good people to help reset your mind and not let you slip into too much of that self-doubt. And then you had it, of course, within yourself to just kick your ass right back into the gym and keep going.
It was probably you and coaches and accountability partners and mentors and everyone else who picked you up and told you, no, get the hell up. You're going to the gym. You're going to get back in it. You're going to be the best.
Yeah, but it was me too.
Yeah.
Like, I think being unsure about your future is sometimes a good thing a bit. Like if you're totally satisfied, you're not going to be as hungry, right?
Definitely not.
I mean, you just mentioned you guys are in kind of an uncomfortable zone this week. Like this could be one of your harder weeks because, like, what's the market going to do?
Yeah.
What's going on with Vegas? Are interest rates going to go up, right? Is that going to slow home buyers down?
Big decisions.
We're used to looking at bids on properties. This is something we've done from day one. And normally when we started out, we were looking at bids on properties that were $20,000, $25,000, $30,000. And that rattled me a little bit. I'm going to spend that much money in this house. We're looking at a bid yesterday for over $700,000 to put into one house. Like, look at how far we've come. Like, I would have never imagined I'd be looking at a piece of paper that says that, about to sign and pay somebody that much money to renovate a house. It's incredibly uncomfortable.
It's called levels.
Right. But at the end of the day, it's just another deal in the pipeline. It just becomes another deal that we do because we know what we're doing, because we put our time and the effort and the focus in and the process and the consistency of it all. So who is the toughest competitor?
Ronnie Coleman. There's a guy I got second to 4 times before I won the title.
Was he also one of your biggest advocates?
He was my idol.
Yeah.
I mean, he was 8-time Mr. Olympia.
Big dog.
Yeah. He was going for 9 when I beat him. So 9 is the record.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, So Arnold has 7. Lee Haney and Ronnie Coleman are tied for 8. And he was going for 9, and he lost to me. And to this day, we're still like known as the two the biggest rivals bodybuilding's ever seen.
Yeah.
And much respect to him. But he was an incredible athlete. Probably go down in history as the greatest physique ever, Mr. Olympia wise. So if you asked me, like, you know, you talk about goats, he's the goat, you know. So to this day, still, I mean, he hasn't won since 2005. Here we are in 2022, and there's still not a physique that topped what he's been at his best.
Wow.
But what I love about it is biggest competitor, biggest rival, but also probably your biggest advocate to push you to be who you were, to beat him.
Yeah, and when you're on the outside looking in now, you appreciate it a lot more. Yeah. It's kind of funny as you kind of remove yourself from that realm of competitive nature, you respect it a lot more. I mean, obviously our goals are different. Like, he started his own supplement brand too, so for a while we were like battling like who has better supplements, you know. And then you know, now like we've both been super successful, still doing appearances. You know, he's very well known. So it's kind of like, you know, we're just kind of together in this whole journey.
Of course.
And respected. And people have their opinions, who's better. Like, there's still a lot of people that say, you know, I was the greatest ever. And people say Arnold was, or Lee Haney, or Dorian Yates, or, you know, there's been like 17 champions, you know, total in history of the Mr. Olympia contest. But we all started from the bottom, and we worked our way through. And along the way, like, we gathered respect from different types of people, right, all over the world. Like, bodybuilding in the U.S. is not even as big as it is, like, in the Middle East and some of these, like, really? Brazil and these countries. Like, fitness is so exploding all over the place. So, like, when I go over there, I'm like rock star. Like, people are at the airport with signs and that kind of stuff.
Crazy.
Which is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
It's just amazing what outside of, like, 'cause people, you know, you walk around, obviously people know me in Las Vegas, and I'm pretty well known on social media, but at the same time, it's not a mainstream sport like you see on national TV constantly. It's a more of a cable type thing and pay-per-view, that kind of stuff. And you know, that's where it's kind of transitioned to.
You know, hearing you talk about the titles, hearing you talk about the businesses you're into, the fan base when you travel, all the other names that you've competed against, every accomplishment you've made, you're an incredibly grounded guy.
Yeah, I was going to say you're super down to earth.
Insanely down to earth and insanely humble. And I just feel super honored to be able to sit down and talk to you like this.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. It's just, you know, like I said, I grew up in a super small town, 6,000 people. Yeah. I'm going to mention Sterling, Mass, because I always tell people I'm from Boston, you know, and then I actually came from Worcester County, which is like 50 miles west of Boston. But Sterling was where the Mary Had the Little Lamb nursery rhyme derived from.
Oh, really?
Mary Sawyer lamb followed her to school there, and that's what's known. So it's like Mary Had a Little Lamb, and then there's Jay Cutler from this town.
Shout out Sterling.
Polar opposites.
So, you know, I mentioned like my family upbringing. My brother's a farmer. You know, he has like 60 cows, which now would be easier for me to get my beef. I could just go to slaughter my brother's cows. But, you know, we had pigs and all that stuff. And, you know, my dad, he started this tradition. And, you know, my brothers still do the concrete to this day. They're one of the most reputable concrete businesses. And everyone, you know, with houses, it all starts with a foundation. We don't have basements as much here, mostly slabs, but they do the form work. And that's how I kind of developed my body, too, through high school. And my only dream was to get out of Sterling, because it seems like everyone stays. Not a lot of people migrate from there. So when I was able to move to California, and I used to look at the magazines and see these guys on the cover of Muscle and Fitness with, you know, these really hot women, and then they're, you know, driving like a Lamborghini or a Ferrari. I thought, man, these guys are all wealthy out there, right? And then soon you get out there and you realize that it's not really, everything is a facade. It's like social media, right? Yeah. And I was in California, and I love California. Like, I love the weather, but as you know, it's a really hard place for people, a lot of people to retire in. and just doesn't really make sense business-wise right now in this, especially the last few years. So, transition to Vegas and being a place that I visited for the first time in 1998. I was here for the first time, and I was on the Strip, and I didn't think anything existed outside the Strip, right?
Most people don't know that.
Yeah.
There's ordinary life outside of the Strip.
So, we mentioned, where I lived in Summerlin and now living, off the Craig Road area. And, I've seen all of Vegas and I've seen the transition. And I'm just thankful for the opportunity. Like, number one, to be able to migrate west and be in a climate that I can basically wake up and smile every day because I'm not surrounded by snow. Once in a while we get snow, right? Vegas is crazy.
Very rare, but yeah.
I think we got some this year over your house.
So, and then to have the relationships, and we know mutual people, right? I mean, you get to know people, and
small town.
Yeah, it's small town.
Small town.
And I still travel tremendously, and I've been humbled a lot because, I was someone that just wanted to win titles and be featured in books. And then eventually that led to social media. But what I realize now is like, that doesn't mean as much to me because I've been there, done it. But now it's like, okay, who else can be the next? And who else can you push and give that? You never plan on being a role model. And that's a term that I get scared when I mention that because we all have our faults, right? We're
sure.
Like, I just look at myself. I get up every day and do the same thing you would do, or like we get up and we have family issues or relationship issues, or, I lost my father last year. Like, we all have things that kind of pull us. You just mentioned the stress of business, right? You hear 10 hours a day, and it made me think, like, man, I got a lot of bad stuff going on too, like that I have to deal with, when I get out of this little podcast, and you're just human. But the most important thing for me at this time, and you started off by asking me, is how can I encourage people? How can I give people that drive? How can I show people my mistakes and be honest so they don't make the same and feel better about themselves? Like, I want people to wake up and be positive, especially after the last 2 years, right? The 2 years has definitely, we've watched a lot of our friends. We watched a lot of our friends, business associates. Unfortunate, I've lost a lot of people around me. And it's affected me. And it makes you realize that life is short and you learn to appreciate everything. So, coming here today and just having this conversation, I hear great things about your business, just so you know.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. That's
I hear
wonderful.
it from some of your competitors.
That's good to hear from them.
And so it's great to have that opportunity. It's a relationship now. We're local, and anything I can always do to help other people is always important to me. And I'm just a normal everyday guy that just loves to go to the gym.
Yeah, honestly, this was it was an incredible conversation. So it's absolute pleasure to meet you and have you on here today. It really is.
A lot of respect for you.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
I think people are going to learn a lot from this podcast. Where can everyone find you? Obviously, at Jay Cutler. Is there
jaycutler.com, at Jay Cutler Instagram, at Jay Cutler 4X Facebook. Everything's Jay Cutler besides the football player.
Yeah.
Just don't confuse me with the ball player. That's been always through my career.
Just check the picture. Right. You can tell.
Yeah. Well, actually, that doesn't always work.
Really?
Yeah, and I can't tell you how many signing events I've been to, and people show up with the Bears jersey and a football. Sometimes it's a joke. Sometimes it's a joke. I say, hey, you're in the one. No, I just wanted to do this just to.
It's kind of funny.
But a lot of comparisons. It's pretty cool. But it's pretty cool because I've been invited to do his podcast too.
Oh,
so
no way.
Some point, we'll link up and do that. But I appreciate the opportunity.
Of course.
Yeah, we enjoyed having you. I hope everyone enjoyed this podcast as well on mindset. I mean, one of the most supreme athletes of all time. The dedication, the focus it took. We appreciate it all, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, until then, we'll see you on the flip side.